Hi, friends. We're back, round three. And I really am excited to share this little piece. And another portion of the script of I Will Wait is that it is real life spouse testimonials are woven through the entire script of I Will Wait. Um, I interviewed 20 plus spouses across generations when Greg and I wrote the play. And these are actual, not edited verbatim testimonials of a handful of the spouses that I spoke with. So again, those are sprinkled in throughout the play. What we're going to watch is just a teeny tiny little segment of some of them, but I actually find them to be some of the most powerful and poignant moments in the play because you know that these are real military families. These are all real experiences, and they are in their own words. And then the kind of added part that I'm also proud of is when we produce I Will Wait, Lea and I have worked really hard to make sure that these testimonials are all given by actual military spouses. So the people you're going to see reading these, for the most part, are not actors. Sometimes we have to supplement if we can't make it work, but for the most part, we try very hard to have those be military spouses, so they can also be a part of our production and their stories and what we're sharing.
I want to say that I handled that year away with grace and poise, but that sure as shit would not be the case. My friends back at home had the luxury of debating the war over beers, and my brother even protested in Portland. 9/11 was just some time before our country was angry, confused, and sad. President Bush would talk like a cowboy and sing, and country singers would write timeless songs about seeking revenge, and I was just all over the map. Did I agree with anyone in this? Should I have an opinion? If I did, was it my opinion or just an enraged response to one side or the other, depending on my day? It was bizarre and sad, and I hate thinking about it. Kara, Boston, Massachusetts.
We got a puppy that year, the year that he returned home from Desert Storm. I would walk him every day by the water and just cry. I really think now, looking back on it, that I was experiencing my own form of PTSD. I would walk that dog and wonder if I was ever going to be myself again. Mary Beth, Denver, Colorado.
Kip and I were out driving in the country when we heard over the radio that Pearl Harbor had been attacked. That ride changed everything. We came back different people. Rosie, Des Moines, Iowa.
I have major guilt about Matt surviving the accident and claim not. That it all came down to was seating. Seating determined who lived and died that day. What kind of system is that? Jenna, Hudsonville, Michigan.
Gosh, it just drives the point home that these stories are endless. They are so varied, and that every single one of the military spouses we have ever met and that has ever come before us is just carrying this burden of story, right? Like whether it's the wrestling with what is my, we can't even speak to the political nature of what's going on right now in our country without it being so emotionally charged. And then you go back and you think of like Vietnam, where you're in like almost the same heightened political environment, except your spouse is the one that people are targeted. Like, I don't know, you just think of like all the varied stories to be told and the burdens that these spouses are carrying around. And I agree with you. This is one of my favorite parts of I Will Wait because it is just the unedited heart of these men and women.
Mm-hmm. And I think it just reminds us that, right? Like we know now that soldiers came home from World War II and had PTSD, but we didn't have a name for it. And we know that soldiers that fought in Korea came back to a country that was war weary from World War II and not interested in what they were doing.
I don't want to talk about it.
And, obviously Vietnam, I mean, I think about, to your point, like where we are politically now and how everything is so like sensitive, like ever, like it feels like we can't ever have a conversation without something explosive happening, or right. There's so much just it feels so like not volatile, but just
But it's like raw nerves, right? Like it's raw
yeah,
nerves.
yeah. But then I think back to Vietnam and I'm like, the whole country was on fire. It was on fire. And and military families were like stuck in the middle of that. Like,
Yeah.
whether you believed in the war or you didn't, it didn't matter. You were getting drafted, people were going, like you had to.
Yeah.
So, and then that takes us to Desert Storm, where you look at Mary Beth, who we want to feel like Desert Storm, like a
It
blip.
was a blip.
But so many of the spouses I talked to from Desert Storm endured the hype leading up to that war and the coverage with CNN and the numbers they were throwing out about what was going to happen with chemical warfare was like terrifying. And then they just didn't hear from them for months and months and months and months and months.
And it
And
was the first time that the media had ever used war, and I'm just going to say it, this is going to sound calloused, and I'm sorry, as kind of entertainment, like war to up the numbers of what they were doing, right? And who was at the brunt, like the wrong end of that stick? It was the military families sitting at home being like, what's happening? And you've got the media outlets being like, we've got to up our numbers, so we're going to make this sound as deadly and interesting as we can, not once thinking, to your point, and I had never thought about that with Desert Storm either until
yeah.
you told me, and we watched these, or we read these testimonials. It was like, wait a minute, I kind of was like, oh, whatever, that was just a blip.
And
Not
that's where like there's just so much nuance to it, right? And then we move into the last one, to Jenna, which, you know, as we were seeing out of the global war on terror, which Lea and I's husbands both were a part of. We saw so many soldiers coming back alive and saved, but we understand TBIs, right? Like TBI wasn't a thing 20 years ago. We understand TBIs and injuries and the idea that, Jenna's husband came back very injured but alive, and Clay didn't. And like, how do you wrestle with that like secondary guilt, right? Of
that survivor's guilt that's so real.
and so again, just these real actual stories, like this is all real. This is all, and so many connected pieces. It really is such a special part of the play and the script, I think. So, and then that transitions us into we're gonna look now at a scene from Desert Storm. It's happening in a bar. Ennis Brown plays the military spouse. He's a bartender. And his wife is coming in to kind of tell him that she got orders and she's going to have to leave for Desert Storm. And they have plans. They've made plans. And
he's got a vision for his life. What?
The military is changing those plans. So here is a scene from Desert Storm.
We got orders today. We're headed to Kuwait and then possibly Iraq.
Wait. Shit. Okay, well, one thing at a time. What did the doctor say?
He said he didn't see any reason why we couldn't go ahead and start trying, but I mean, we can't now.
Why?
I'm leaving.
Wait, what?
You know I have to go, right? They need me.
They need you. Lisa, come on, look, I get it. I really do. You love your job. You love the army. But we decided to start a family. I'm ready, and you're ready. You just can't go changing the plan.
If you have a problem with the change plan, you can take it up with my boss. Or like, I don't know, damn Saddam Hussein? Have you ever been paying attention to what's going on in the world right now? I have to go. I'm not just going to bail because I want to get pregnant.
Really? America is looking to you for protection?
Yes, I plan to single-handedly save the damn world. I dedicated my life to this country.
It's funny when I listen to that because Jamie and I had a very similar conversation at some point in our marriage where, I was frustrated about him going somewhere. I don't even remember now. And, he was very adamant, like, they need me. They need me. And I remember being like, do they? They need you. Like, no, we need you. Like, I need you, your kids need you. The army will function without you. Like, right? And which now I can look back and it feels so so harsh. But when you're in the middle of it, and you're so frustrated that you have these dreams and plans and needs and wants and no matter what you want or what you've decided as a couple or a family, the military is always going to trump it.
Right.
And that's hard.
And that's hard. And because you look at, I can remember saying something very similar too, being like, we spent forever and ever in the 82nd Airborne Division. And I can remember being like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the 82nd was going to fall completely apart if Lea Johnson wasn't there, right? It's so rude and it's so belittling. But to the flip of it is, I just think of I think of all the times we have come into units and we've made our mark and the whole unit depended on him, whether he was a company commander or a battalion or whatever it was. And then literally the moment you pass that flag on to the next guy or girl and you walk away, you're so irrelevant. And so this juxtaposition of they can't function without you, except the minute that you're not there, you don't really matter. So how do we reconcile that with this idea of well, and another thing this makes me think of too is Rick always just being in the beginning of our marriage, and I don't think I'm alone in this. You're the most important thing. You're the most important thing. You're number one. And I mean, it was a decade before I could somehow figure out that he can say that all day long. He will always choose the army because he can't show
He doesn't have a choice.
This soldier couldn't be sorry, boss,
right.
I'm not going to Iraq because I want to get pregnant. She couldn't have said that. But trying to find the place, and I got here eventually, where that didn't diminish his love for me. He can somehow put the army first, and I know I'm always going to come second, and that doesn't mean he doesn't love me. And I can't explain it. I can't explain it. Yeah. But you can see in this scene the underlying frustration of constantly having to readjust what your values or what your timeline or your vision was for your life to the needs of the military.
Yeah, and this is the extreme, right, with war and deployment, but it happens in little micro ways all throughout your time in the military, right? You don't get to choose where you live. You can think you're going to work and have a job, except for who knows if you can do that where you're going to be next. Whether you want to be or not, you're going to have to be the primary caregiver if you have children because they, can't be relied on to always be there. So it's one of those things that it's not their fault. We know it's not their fault. We made this decision together as a couple and a family to live this lifestyle. But man, in the day to day, it's real easy to let that really impact how you feel about your marriage and your relationship and yourself, and your own desires. And it's just yet another stressor and layer. I mean, I know Lea and I could both we won't, but we could name numerous places where our husbands came home and said, we have to move to so-and-so. And we were like, no.
Never pictured myself there. Wait, I live forever now in a place I never pictured myself. So I guess.
Correct. Yeah, it's definitely yet another piece of the military that I think for an environment that has so much control in its day-to-day operations and how the military runs, obviously we know it controls everything. As the family member or the spouse, you actually have zero control. And that's hard to kind of balance. So again, just, we're proud that the show and the play really speaks to just kind of these stressors and these, things that happen in the military lifestyle that, average Joe citizen might not know or understand, or other military spouses and families might feel I feel like a terrible person that I literally said to my husband, they really need you. I need you. Stay home.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, we're not alone. We're
Yeah.
not alone. Yeah. I do love that this play shows that. We have all run the gamut of all the feelings.
Me too.
And that's okay.